Hello and welcome to the weekly commodity market update. I'm Brownfield anchor Will Robinson, joined as always by the University of Missouri's Ben Brown. Hey, Ben.
Good morning, Will. How
So where
are
are you
you?
at this week? You're always on the road now.
Yeah, I'm in Utah. So it's been a crazy summer of lots of travel, but I'm in Park City, Utah. I'm out here doing some strategic planning with the Farm Credit Council or the Farm Credit Group. And so really looking forward to the opportunity to hear kind of what they're seeing from a lending perspective and getting the opportunity to share some of my thoughts on grain markets and where we go over the next 3 to 5 years. So pretty excited about it. Sorry we couldn't do last week. We tried to make it go last
Yeah.
week, but just ran into some logistical challenges. Good thing Pat Westhoff is around and Pat's just able to go on the fly without any preparation. So
Yeah, I was joking with Pat. I called him, or joking with Pat. I called him a pinch hitter, Albert Pujols.
oh yeah, he's
But
certainly Hall of Fame worthy.
yeah. So now, just talking about the markets that you're previewing up there. Can you talk about what we saw change wise last week?
Yeah, pretty much down across the board. After kind of a little bit of a rally and recovery the week before, old crop corn for September down 40 cents to $5.97. New crop corn in December down 35 cents to $5.94. Old crop soybeans for August down 44 cents to 14.78. New crop soybeans in November down 45 cents to 13.60. Those soybean components, soybean oil fell almost 2 cents to 62 cents per pound. Soybean meal was down 40 cents per short ton, so pretty flat on the week for $433.30 per short ton. And then wheat fell 46 cents to $8.10.
And then what kind of highlights really led us to where we're sitting right now? We're seeing that continual slide within the markets, it seems like.
Yeah, so kind of a lot of things came out last week. I think the underlying answer to what you maybe didn't ask there is, what's causing this, and it's really weak demand. Is we're just in a period where we're kind of in this wait and hold pattern for the new crop corn and soybeans, and it's kind of weak demand across the board. We had July's updated supply and demand estimates last week, which showed old crop corn and soybean stocks growing on some of that weaker demand that we've been experiencing here lately. New crop corn supplies were also up month over month on higher acreage, while soybean stocks decreased 50 million bushels. That was largely due to that, the reduction in acres that we saw in the June acreage report. But it's probably notable that we're at the point where we can't absorb all those supply losses without tailoring some demand. So we did see some cuts in the demand side for new crop soybeans. U.S. ethanol production is down 39,000 barrels per day last week, just slightly over 1 million barrels per day. Still, I expect many plants will take maintenance breaks in the weeks ahead. Just it's that season to be able to do that. After a very dismal export sales report a week ago, we had another soft export sales report this last week. The new crop corn sales were actually positive at 2.3 million bushels of additional new crop corn or new corn sales for our current marketing year. However, we did see net soybean cancellations and net grain sorghum cancellations. Wheat export sales were very strong, coming in at 37.4 million bushels, beating all trader expectations and setting a high for the marketing year. When we look at the National Oilseed and Processors Association report for Soybean Crush, they reported 164.7 million bushels of soybeans crushed during the month of June. That was nearly right in line with trader and pre-report expectations, but down from the 171 million bushels last month. Cumulative soybean crush numbers for September through June currently stand at 1.738 billion bushels. That's up 2% from last year's pace, but still falling short of where we need to be to hit USDA's target. Couple other things, I guess, just real quick. Grain export inspections this week were up for corn, but down for grain, sorghum, soybeans, and wheat. And then the national crop conditions ratings were flat for corn at 64% good to excellent, while just slightly down for soybeans at 61 good to excellent.
Well, just ending up right there, talking about crop conditions. That's really one of the key topics we're going to talk about today, because it's becoming more important as farmers are really watching their corn and soybean crops, especially corn right now with this July heat we're seeing. It seems like there's almost a tale of two different stories being told at the moment when we're looking at weather patterns and crop condition movements, throughout the Midwest. It's who are getting those timely rains and who is not. So really looking at where you see the crop sitting today, but what are your thoughts just generally on how that plays a role in the market and really where crop progress is?
Yeah, no. So this is a great question, and it's hot and dry. We'd expect that in July. I think it's the intensity that's got everybody a little bit concerned as we head into this next couple of weeks. As I'm looking strictly at a numbers perspective and kind of doing a little bit of an analysis, our corn crop ratings so far have been following patterns where we've ended up with very strong national yields. 2021 was a year where we had roughly a very similar pattern, ended up with a new record yield. So I'm not going to sit here and say that we're you know, not going to reach even a trend line yield, because I think it's still possible. However, what concerns me most, and I want to preference and say that it's certainly possible to hit those trend line yields. I think it's a long shot at this point. I think we are probably taking some top end off corn yields. As I drive across the country, probably the thing that stands out to me the most as I look at corn is just how variable the growth stages are for corn in different parts of the country. I was in Western Missouri visiting my folks over the weekend, and there's a lot of corn in that part of the state, just in Missouri, and that isn't much above waist height. Hasn't even started to tassel. Isn't much above waist height, and I've seen that same pattern in Ohio, eastern Indiana as well. And so I think we've got a very large pollination window this year, where we've got some corn that's already pollinated and already through that, and we've got some still to come, and they'll pollinate, unfortunately, during this hot this hot spell that we've got coming up. So we've got some concerns. The drought monitor is certainly showing increased portions of the country, especially in like that Illinois, southern Illinois, Indiana, southeast Missouri region that's experiencing some drought. Soil moisture conditions are low. I continue to look at that area in northwest Iowa, where we're seeing some drought spread across northwest Iowa, into more north central southern Minnesota, or north central Iowa, southern Minnesota. And that's maybe a concern area for me, along with that eastern Illinois part of the country as well. As I look at which states are being hit the hardest, at least in terms of lack of rain, kind of what you were talking about, the haves and the have-nots. Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, Kansas, those tend to be the 4 states that continue to get, unfortunately, the lack of adequate conditions, either too much moisture or not enough. And that's causing a little bit of trouble. But Iowa corn, northern Illinois, where we're seeing some of this drought pressure kind of start to emerge, is still doing pretty well. So I think that's a testament to how far we've come with corn hybrids.
Well, I want to step out of the corn soybean conversation for just a second, because southern Missouri, they're experiencing some severe drought conditions now, and it's kind of creeping up. It seems like a little bit further north, we got some drought pressure along I-70 as well. But how's that affect crops outside of the standard big guys? You're looking at maybe cotton and rice and things like that at all?
I know it has a big impact. I think we're starting to see it in the cotton conditions rating, and certainly the forecast for cotton production. This hot dryness, especially in the southeast and across Texas, is having a major impact on the cotton crop as we look at that. And it's definitely a concern. I'm not going to say it's not a concern. Kind of interesting. I think if we talk about some of these minor crops I'm a little bit more familiar with, when we look at the northern plains, so North Dakota, Minnesota, they've had too much rain. And so I think we're kind of worried about quality of some of that spring wheat and some of these spring oil seeds up in the Dakotas, having some quality issues. But kind of a strange year for weather. However, as I've been corrected multiple times, this seems to be the normal every year. So maybe it's not that strange after all.
Well, I want to go back to one thing you said earlier that was a little bit interesting to me. It seemed like this planting season, a lot of planting opened up in about a 10-day window. So, at least personally, I thought maybe we could get a lot of these crops pollinating at the same time, but that really doesn't seem to be the case. Like you said, it seems to be a pretty wide window. So looking at, a lot of the lack of moisture we've seen in July, and then looking again here locally in central Missouri, we're seeing temperatures this week that are going to be, the highs are ranging from 97 to 104 is what the forecast is. So do you see that as a benefit with a lot of those crop stages being spread out, maybe not, putting all your chips down on one number at the casino?
Yeah, so it's probably helping us out this year. And most years I would say that's not a good thing. From a farm management standpoint, you want that crop to kind of mature all at the same time. I think from a farm management standpoint, or from a 2022 weather standpoint, yeah, it's probably helping us some that the crop's not maturing all at the same time. And we've got places that are already, starting to enter into that pod fill stage for soybeans, and some places for the dough stage on corn. So I think that is a positive, given the high heat that we're seeing. We're expected to see evaporation rates. Sorry, I was trying to say, I couldn't say that word for a second. Evaporation rates across the country of 1.5 inches in some of the driest areas. And we're not expected to get more than 1/10 to 1/2 inch in a lot of these places. So I think we're going to continue to see dryness, even if we do get some rain. And so I think that's an important factor going forward, is that we're drying this crop out at a very quick rate. And there's going to be some places, whether it's corn or soybeans, or whether it's wheat, cotton, rice, whatever it may be, that's just not going to make anything. And I remind folks that if they take those acres out of the harvested acres, that increases the national yield, right? So you're taking your poorest quality yields out, and that helps boost the national yield. So we'll see. There could be some areas that just don't get harvested.
Well, the great thing about this conversation is 2 weeks from now, we could be sitting here with a totally different picture, and we've got rainfall in a lot of these key areas. So it's a very much a changing landscape all the time. So,
yeah.
Well, Ben, I appreciate your time this morning. Looking forward to reports to watch. Coming up on Wednesday, we have the ethanol reports. Export sales comes out on Thursday. And then on the livestock side of things, we have the cattle on feed report. So if you want to check more out on the livestock side of the business, definitely watch the weekly livestock market update with Brownfield's Megan Grebner and University of Missouri's Scott Brown. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Will Robinson on Brownfield.